What have you always wondered about spirits? What actually happens when we die, and information about the actual afterlife? Because I don't think any religion or human actually knows. All right. Disclaimer, go ahead and add it to all of my videos. Nobody knows for sure. Not even people who have experienced NDEs like me, because when you experience an NDE, you're not all dead, you're just mostly dead. Princess Bride continues to be the best way to describe that. There is a very fine line between faith, belief, and delusion. And anybody that says this is the absolute truth and I know it for a fact, they are delusional. And I promise you, Scout's honor, I will never cross that fine line. Technically, nobody knows. But let's talk about what happens when you croak anyway. So, all of your chakras slow down and stop, and your spirit detaches from the body. How quickly that happens to have to do with the manner of death. As this process is happening, the mind and the spirit are still fused with the body. Therefore, the initial experiences of crossing over involve the mind, very similar to an NDE. And if you are mostly dead on the way to being completely dead, the exact right spirits are going to be there to greet you. Because at this point, you're still fused with the mind. Not every spirit is the right spirit to greet you. So, for instance, if you had a horrible relationship with your mother and her spirit was there while your mind was still fused with your body and your spirit, you'd probably be like, I'm going back to Earth. Spirit knows who to send for that. Once the body and the mind are no longer fused with the spirit and the spirit is fully crossed, which happens pretty quickly, now you are your purest essence. My main spirit guide and a bunch of other spiritual entities affirm strongly that crossing over is the very best part of life, that it is so cool. Okay, so at this point, there's no pain, there's no agony, there's no judgment, there's no resentment, there are no negative emotions at all, and you begin life review. So essentially, this means you're with your spirit guides, whether or not you knew them in your life, and you go through your entire life moment by moment with a fine tooth comb. Now, oftentimes, spirits will take breaks from this and go pester people that are still in body because they want everybody to know they're a-okay. Life review, on the other side, time-wise, is a little tricky because there is no time in the non-physical world, the spirit world, the afterlife. However, I really don't like the term afterlife because it implies life, and life only exists on the planet. However, if we were going to put life review on a timetable, sometimes entities blow through it in a matter of days, taking little breaks, and sometimes it takes years if you are equating it to what our experience with time would be like if you mirrored it in some way. What this process does is help the spirit fully integrate the wisdom, the lessons, the vibrations, the experiences from that life so they can check, did I learn everything I went to learn? Did I gain everything that I went to gain? And then they recompute where they are vibrationally with regard to how close they are to nirvana, and oftentimes immediately start making plans on how they're going to reincarnate. Not planning to do it immediately, but what do I need to learn? What do I need to take from this life? So on and so forth. So the non physical world is completely non physical. There is no matter, there are no photons, there are no particles. It's all non physical. There is full objective awareness of one's life and lives, but there is no pain. But what we do is we recreate physical energy energetically, and we practice things, we learn, we communicate with other entities, we even build things out of pure spiritual energy. So the non physical world is kind of an energetic wonderland in which we both communicate with other entities and also practice doing things for our physical lives in the future. Our spirit cannot hear, it cannot see, it cannot feel in the non physical because there's no longer a body. There's no longer a central nervous system. There's no longer eyeballs or earballs. So, everything, how we sense everything via consciousness in the non physical world, is essentially clear cognizance, which is clear knowing. And if you have had an NDE or you are claircognizant, you already kind of have an idea of what that's like. And it's awesome. There's no religion, there's no spirituality on the other side. These things are man made. There is no judgment or punishment on the other side. These things are also man made. Spirits of all living beings exist in the non physical. So the spirits of plants, bunnies, kitties, extraterrestrials, so on and so forth. And all of these spirits are reincarnating towards nirvana, perfection, merging with the universe, moksha, God's head, whatever you want to call it. The non physical, aka the spirit world, inhabits the same exact space that we inhabit, just in a completely different way. Spirit is everywhere, a bit like air. Nothing spiritual is physical, so anything physical doesn't exist in the non physical world. However, there are attributes that exist on both sides, like love and certain states of consciousness and energy in general. However, non physical energy is completely different than physical energy. Spirits can be anywhere with a thought form. It's kind of like transporting. And what nirvana is essentially, think of it this way, it's like one single drop of water entering an infinite sea. Instead of being an individual entity, we become one entirely with everything. Like actually one with everything instead of just being connected energetically to everything. And absolutely nobody knows what that's like because you can't communicate with an entity once it's merged with the universe because the individual entity is now everything. But what's most important is that nobody actually knows. I won't even claim that. And I work with spirit more than full time. And I shan't cross the line between faith, belief, and delusion.